So, welcome to tonight's licensing subcommittee meeting. My name is Councillor Callum Nimmo, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. The meeting is being broadcast live on the council's YouTube channel, and if I lose connection, Councillor Wesley Harcourt will take over for me. I'd like to remind all participants of a few housekeeping points. Please keep your microphones muted unless you are speaking. Please keep your camera turned on when you speak at the hearing. Please note that the chat function has been disabled. If parties wish to add any additional information other than at their allotted time to speak, they must use the raise the hand function so that they are not missed. I also ask that members keep their questions and comments brief and to the point. I now move on to item 1 of the agenda, which is apologies for absence, of which there are none. And now move on to item 2 of the agenda. Do any members have any declarations of interest? No, we don't. So now moving to item 3. So this is the licensing committee hearing for the Black Bull 257 King Street, London, W6 9LU. And I would like to ask everyone participating to introduce yourselves as I call on you. So we should have with us Piers Warne, who is the applicant's agent. Mr. Warne, could you introduce yourself?
Good evening, Chair. Hopefully you can hear me. Yes, so my name's Piers Warne from TLT. I represent the applicants and I might be able to speed things up. Bashar Gregorian is with me, sitting next to me in the blue suit. And also with us is Joseph Gregorian, who's observing. He's just finished his law degree, so wanted to be here. So we're the applicants here today. Perfect,
thank you very much. And secondly, we should have with us Adrian Overton, who is the licensing team manager. Mr. Overton, could you introduce yourself?
Present, Chair. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Adrian Overton, as you said, I'm the licensing team manager for Hammersmith and Fulham Council. Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we also should have with us Fabian Sims, who's the licensing officer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's Fabian Sims, licensing enforcement officer.
Thank you very much. And lastly, we should have Gerta Kotilash, the council's legal officer.
Yes, present, Chair. Good evening.
Thank you. Now moving to the objectors, we should have Freddie Toy, who's speaking and representing on behalf of Ka Ho Mong, Anna Ho, and Nelson Leung.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We should have Calipio Florides.
Yes, that's Calliope Florides.
Apologies. Thank you very much. We should have with us Steve Askins. I believe Mr. Askins is on the Zoom call. You might be on mute. Well, we'll take that his presence.
He is on the call. He's on mute. You should be able to see his name.
Yeah, thank you. We should have Liz Knight.
So apologies, Chair. It's Stephen Askins here. Just figured out the unmuting.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Askins. So we should have Liz Knight, but I don't see Miss Knight in the list of people in the call. We also have William Aylward, who's speaking representing on behalf of Dr. Hazel Willis.
Hello, Chair. Yes, present. Apologies, I'm trying to get my camera to work, but it is not working. I would also just like to make a quick point of order that I was also supposed to speak to an independent report that was commissioned and filed within the timeline, but for some reason is not showing up on the agenda, and that was by an independent urban planning consultancy.
Okay. Maybe we can cover that when your representation is as well. Can I ask if we have Michael Harley with us as well?
Yeah, hi there. I'm present.
Thank you. So turning.
Chair, can I just I've got somebody called Razwan Pone in the waiting room. I don't have them in my attendance list. If I let them in, could we just ask them to confirm who they are, and if Adrian can let us know whether they've made a valid representation. I'm just going to do that now, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it's fine. Yeah, we can have a look at that.
Hello, is it Razvan? Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi. Would you mind turning your camera on? We just want to know whether you've made a valid representation, because I don't have you under the attendance list and I didn't send a Zoom invite, so we just want to confirm that you've made a valid representation. Adrian, are you able to?
Yeah, so I've sent my letter to the email address. Now, Matt at the time told me that it was past the deadline. So let me know if that makes it an issue.
You
So
can only stay if you've made a valid representation, and Adrian, our licensing officer, will find that out now and we'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I'm just having a look now. I can't see that you made a valid representation during the 28-day period. And it sounds like Mr. Tucker sent you an email.
He did, yes.
And did he say that it was out of time, the representation that you sent in?
That's what he said on the email.
Yeah, so unfortunately, you won't be able to take part in this evening's hearing. You are able to obviously watch it on the YouTube channel, but I think it would be the chair's discretion whether you stay in the meeting or whether he might ask you to leave and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, so I'm one of the residents. Sorry.
Just if you haven't made a valid representation, then you would probably have to leave the committee and hear it and watch it on YouTube. But I'll let the chair.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. Yeah, apologies, Razvan. I think that's probably the best way to proceed.
Okay, let's go with that for now. William, who's on the call, if he can represent the things that we discussed in the past, and then I'll follow up on YouTube and on the next steps.
Thank you. No, thank you for your understanding on that one.
And I think there were some concerns about the notice being not being placed and being removed before the deadline. So that can be discussed in the meeting as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So I would now turn to just some quick points on procedure. So before we consider the application today, may I confirm that in addition to the main agenda, supplementary agenda A was published on the 8th of September 2025, i.e. yesterday. So I'll quickly explain the procedure the committee will follow. We will hear from the following. The licensing officer will introduce the application. We'll then hear from the objectors, and finally the applicant. Usually each party will address the committee for a maximum of 5 minutes, and following the presentation by all parties, the committee may ask questions of any party or any other person present at the hearing. Except committee members, no person or party has the right to ask questions of any other party at any time during the hearing. And then following the presentation and questioning, each party will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to sum up their case or representation. The committee will then retire for deliberations, and upon its return, I will announce the committee's decision. So turning to the substantive, I've got the housekeeping out the way. Can I ask the licensing officer, Adrian Overton, to introduce the application, please?
Thank you. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, panel. Just by way of background, I can confirm that on the 23rd of May 2025, Gregorian Hotel...
Apologies, Adrian. I think Councillor Harcourt has his hands up.
Sorry.
You're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. Sorry, the usual trick. Sorry, just a quickie. In terms of the length of time people speaking, is it 5 minutes period, or is it 5 minutes per, if they're representing more than one person? Is it 5 minutes per person they are representing?
I believe that is correct.
Just to clarify, so we all know where we are.
That's correct.
Understand it as well,
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies, Adrian. Please do continue.
No problem. Thank you, Councillor. So just by way of background, I can confirm that on the 23rd of May 2025, Gregorian Hotel Trading Limited submitted a new premises licence application for the business known as the Black Ball, 257 King Street, London, W6 9LU. This application sought to permit the following licensable activities. So it's recorded music indoors, Monday to Saturday, 11 AM until midnight, and then on Sunday, midday until 11:30 PM. The sale of alcohol on and off the premises, Monday to Saturday, 11 AM until 1 AM, and then on Sunday, midday until 11:30 PM. Late night refreshment was also applied for the same terminal hour as recorded music. Following on from discussions with the police licensing team, the applicant then agreed to reduce the terminal hour for recorded music from Monday to Thursday until 11 PM and also on Sunday until 11 PM. For the sale of alcohol, that was, sorry, my screen just gone back, 11 until 1 PM. 1 second. Sale of alcohol, the hours were reduced, apologies, to midnight, Monday to Saturday. In the last few days, the applicant has reached an agreement to further reduce the hours for recorded music so that the terminal hour is now 11 PM every day of the week. So just for clarity, the current proposed hours are actually at the bottom of page 4 of the report. The only amendment to these hours is now that the terminal hour for recorded music is 11 PM. On the basis of these amendments, both the police and the council's noise team have withdrawn their representation. Please note that the police have agreed a number of conditions with the applicant, and these are outlined on pages 5 to 7 of the report. Please also be aware that the council's health and safety team have recently withdrawn their representation, which is outlined in supplementary Agenda A that was previously mentioned. 33 resident representations remained outstanding for this application, with a number of residents present here this evening. The resident representations can be found in the report on pages 67 to 147. Finally, it should also be noted by members that the applicant has voluntarily agreed to a condition for the outside area of the premises, which states that no drinks are to be permitted to be taken into the external area until this condition has been removed by way of a variation to the premises licence. I don't have any other comments at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Overton. Just a couple of points. Can I ask the applicant to keep their camera on throughout the duration of the meeting, please? Secondly, Mr. Askins, I know you have your hand up, but we will come to you if the list of objectors. I'm afraid you can't ask questions during the hearing per the note at the beginning. And lastly, just a question for Adrian, Mr. Overton. Would you mind clarifying the hours again, just for the committee's benefit?
Yeah, sure. I'll just get those for you 1 second. So these are the amended hours as agreed with the police and with the council's noise team. So recorded music indoors only, Monday to Thursday, 11 AM until 11 PM, Friday and Saturday, 11 AM until 11 PM, and Sunday, midday until 11 PM. Late night refreshment indoors only, Monday to Saturday, 11 until midnight, Sunday, 11 until 11:30. And the sale of alcohol on and off the premises, Monday to Saturday, 11 until midnight, and Sunday, midday until 11:30. And just to clarify, the hours open to the public are Monday to Saturday, 11 until midnight, and Sunday, midday until midnight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem.
I was just knows the bit of movement. That's brilliant to clarify. So I'd now like to oh yes, Gerta.
Sorry, I just need to clarify them again, Adrian, and apologies because there are so many hours out there. In the supplementary agenda, Mr. Swift, the noise and nuisance officer, Adam Swift,
Mm.
confirmed that recorded music will not occur after 2300 all week. And that's why he withdrew his objection. So my understanding is recorded music. So just to clarify the hours, what we are looking tonight, I thought the recorded music was Monday to Sunday until 11.
It was, yeah. Sorry, I think I went through it Monday to Thursday, Friday to Saturday. So I could have just said Monday to Sunday
Okay.
until 11.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
Monday
no,
to Sunday until 11.
yeah, I suppose the difference on Sunday is that it starts at midday.
Yeah.
So really it should be Monday to Saturday.
But the terminal hours
The
is
terminal
11
hour is
p.m.
11. Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
And thank you for further clarifying that. So I'd now like to move to the objectors. So I'll call each person here in turn. So firstly, I'd like to ask Freddie Toy to speak, who's also representing Ka Ho Mong, Anna Ho, and Nelson Leung. And you have 20 minutes to speak as you're representing other, I should say up to 20 minutes to speak due to the other people you are representing. So Mr. Toy, can I ask?
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor. I've also got Dr. Martina Riker and her husband Klaus that I'm representing. That probably gives me an inordinate amount of time to speak, but I won't speak that long. My name is Frederick Toy, as you just heard. I'm a resident of Revilius House and a director of Revilius House's Right to Manage company. I'm representing the residents of Revilius House in that capacity, and also the names that the councillor just mentioned. Our residents strongly object to the Black Bull license application, and our grounds for objection have been considered in line with the licensing objectives supported by the council under the 2003 Licensing Act, specifically the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. All of these we believe the planning application to be in breach of. Before I begin, it is important for the committee and interested parties to consider at all times the nature of the area we are discussing, Ravenscourt Park. It's a family residential area with a dense population of preschool and teen academic institutions and associated extracurricular activities. Public data from the Policing Research Partnership, and by the way, any evidence you require me to send, you can request afterwards and we can send it, suggests that alcohol is involved in approximately 2 in every 5 violent crimes, and 95% of violent incidents occur in or around drinking venues. Our residents do not want this near their families, homes, or young children. According to a 2003 Office of National Statistics report on the nature of violent crime in England and Wales, the consequences of alcohol-related crime are wide-ranging, including human, social, and financial costs. It is vital for the committee to consider the change that this area has seen since this pub last had a licence. This is an area which is now predominantly families and young children, with many of the nearby academic institutions in adjacent buildings being early learning academic facilities. We count 3 primary schools within 100 metres of the pub, as well as prep schools, secondary schools, and multiple sixth form colleges. It is one of the most densely populated young academic areas in the United Kingdom. Extracurricular post-school activities would be impacted too. Has the committee considered, for example, the Chelsea Fine Arts School right next to the pub? I know our residents do not enjoy the idea of drunk patients being visible to children through the art classes' glass windows, or for the children to be visible to the pub's drunk patrons. The cafes opposite the pub are also popular, gathering spots for children between classes and post-school, as well as the park, its playgrounds, tennis courts, and basketball area. None of these apply to off-street local drunken establishments such as the Cross Keys or Carpenter's Arms. The location of the pub between the area's many schools and their main thoroughfares should be a primary concern for this committee. We should be mindful of the many scandals that hit Rotherham Council on this topic. For example, the case of Obaidullah Omari, a man who, with access, groomed and raped 2 children in Rotherham, having given alcohol and drugs to girls aged between 13 and 14. It doesn't take much to imagination to consider how reinstating a drinking establishment in close proximity to these schools enables ease of access to children for those adults so minded under the influence of alcohol, increasing the likelihood of such incidents reoccurring. Statistics often show that a high proportion of incidents occur in or around licensed premises like pubs and bars. This committee is statistically more likely to have incidents of this nature on its hands if they are to prove this license. To be clear, the relationship is not to state that pubs cause crime. Instead, pubs are places where alcohol is consumed, which can lower inhibitions and impair judgment. making individuals more prone to aggressive behaviour and risk-taking. The committee should consider the kinds of individuals drawn to a pub in a fairly dingy location next to a premier inn, yet surrounded by primary and adolescent schools, in correlation with the increased likelihood of aggressive behaviour and risk-taking as a result of alcohol consumption. The Vencourt Place passage is also poorly lit and continues down the side of the pub and behind it, creating an attractive area for those who wish not to be seen. If the committee decides the risks are less than the benefits of having a drinking hole in this area, which we very much hope is not the case, we would at minimum ask that venue-specific decisions are made to reduce the statistical likelihoods of undesirable outcomes, such as closure no later than 10 p.m, so that families and children can sleep, and daytime security to ensure that many children that will be passing by are protected and not followed. I believe the Metropolitan Police has voiced this as well. The pub is also situated on a busy road and cycle path, King Street, which is already accident-prone. As recently as August 23rd, a lady from Revilius House, our building, was killed by a moped rider, leaving behind her 2 children and husband. The committee should consider how much more statistically likely it is for similar incidents to take place if alcohol, pub crowds, and large groups of children are all thrown into a mix. The pub's large forecourt further encourages outdoor congregation and late-night smoking, amplifying nuisance for neighbours and increasing risk of harm. Again, none of this applies to off-street local drinking establishments such as the Cross Keys or Carpenter's Arms, which some might have been minded to use for a precedent case. All of these issues will put further strain on our emergency services when resources are limited, compromising the sense of safety for families, children, and residents. Residents of our building are familiar with this, having frequently reported witnessing violent altercations between drunk or otherwise intoxicated persons when the establishment was last operational in 2016 and 2017. The committee can refer to previous police reports to understand the extent of the troubles in the pub's past incarnations. Many of these incidents were recorded. Inspectors from the Noise Pollution Department visited several times in 2017 and 2018 to record the noise levels heard, and sent warning letters to the Black Bull as it was playing music far too loud and outside its permitted times. Soon after, the pub closed. I understand the Metropolitan Police originally objected to this licence, only withdrawing after demanding strict new conditions such as CCTV, instant logs, door staff risk assessments. The fact that such conditions are required at all is proof that this site poses significant safety concerns, particularly if alcohol is sold late into the night. For our residents, Revilius House bedrooms are only metres away from the pub's single glazed frontage. Music, chatter, and dispersal noise will be unavoidably intrusive. The World Health Organization advises outdoor night noise should not exceed 40 decibels, yet normal pub operations easily exceed this threshold. Prolonged sleep disruption is linked to cardiovascular disease, mental health decline, and chronic stress. The committee is under obligations from the 2003 Licensing Act to prevent this harm to its residents. When the pub was first licensed, there was no adjacent residential property to disturb. Today, it sits in the heart of a family-friendly neighbourhood, where noise carries directly into homes. No signage or conditions can realistically mitigate this. While we acknowledge the potential for economic activity, there are many alternative types of operations, such as cafes, community spaces, and retail, as aforementioned, that would complement the area without causing disruption. The pub does not align with the needs or expectations of the local community. When the Black Bull was last licensed, the local context was commercial, not residential. The area has since transformed, with homes, families, and schools now in immediate proximity. What might have once been acceptable is no longer compatible, and I believe the committee has the obligation to reject the licensing application on the grounds of the 2003 licensing objectives. Crime and disorder will increase, public safety will be compromised, public nuisance is inevitable, and children's well-being will be harmed. I thank the committee for taking note of the concerns of Revilius House residents.
Thank you, Mr. Toy, for your representation. Can I now invite Calliope Florides to speak? You have up to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Good evening. I own a flat in Revilius House directly opposite the Black Bull. Both the entrance and the bedroom to my flat are on the ground floor of Vencourt Place, only metres away from the pub. From my bedroom window, I can see directly into the pub, and because of the pub's single glazing, I can hear everything from inside and outside the premises. This is not just about noise entering a home, it's about bedrooms, the most private spaces where women and children should feel safe, being placed in full view of strangers. With the pub's single glazing and large forecourt, anyone frequenting the pub can look directly across into rooms just meters away, stripping away privacy and creating a profound sense of vulnerability. As a woman, this makes me feel extremely vulnerable. Walking home at night is already difficult, but the Black Ball is accessed down a quiet, dark road that residents of Vencourt Playside must use to get into our homes. In the winter, darkness falls from as early as 4 o'clock, and the idea of passing groups of intoxicated patrons outside the pub on that road fills me with dread. The Licensing Act requires you to uphold public safety, yet this application would do the opposite. It would create fear and intimidation for residents every time they return home. The last time that the Black operated with extended hours, living opposite was nothing short of torture. We were constantly subjected to high levels of noise late into the night, every night. Sleep became impossible. In desperation, we even bought a white noise machine to try to drown out the sounds of music, shouting, and dispersing, but it was never enough. The constant intrusion meant that the fear of nightly disturbance became as damaging as the noise itself. It was deeply distressing and relentless, to the point where we hated our lives living so close to the pub. I feel even with these words, I cannot portray to you the constant harm and distress that we were subjected to on a nightly basis. It is something that needs to be lived to be truly appreciated. This is exactly what the Licensing Act is designed to prevent under the objectives of public nuisance and public safety, and it must not be allowed to happen again. The second concern is crime and disorder. Late-night alcohol sales are proven to increase aggression and antisocial behaviour. The service street between the pub and Revilius House is not a through road, has little natural surveillance, and will inevitably become a place where people loiter, urinate, and cause disruption. The risk of intoxicated patrons behaving aggressively meters away from the home of women and children, with a direct line of sight into bedrooms of both, is real and frightening. No woman or child should be forced to live like that. And this location is uniquely sensitive. The Black Ball sits directly on school walking routes. It should be noted that there are 5 schools within a 130-metre radius of the Black Ball, something which was not in the report of the council, as well as the child-friendly park directly across. Children and families are directly visible from inside the pub itself, something that is not the case for the Cross Keys or the Carpenter's Arms. It creates a deeply concerning risk of unsavoury individuals watching children in their bedrooms from the pub or its forecourt. The proximity and visibility place children at unavoidable risks of exposure to late-night drinking culture, noise, inappropriate behaviour, and unwanted observation. The Licensing Act places a particular emphasis on the protection of children, and this application runs directly against that objective. Granting this application would mean that children are routinely confronted with the consequences of late-night drinking venue, loud noise, litter, drunken behaviour, and the intimidation that often accompanies dispersal. It would normalise these conditions immediately outside their homes and schools, undermining their sense of safety and well-being. This is now a family-friendly area with a strong community identity. Approving a late-night alcohol licence here would import noise, intimidation, and disorder into a place that should be safe and welcoming. In short, this application undermines the Licensing Act on every front. Crime and disorder will increase, public safety will be compromised, public nuisance will be unavoidable, and children will be placed at risk. The harms are inevitable and no conditions could realistically prevent them. This case is about balance. You are asked to weigh the commercial interests of one operator against the rights of hundreds of residents, hotel guests, and children who live, sleep, and study directly around this building. The only proportional and responsible decision is to refuse this application in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your representation. Can I now call on Steve Askins? You have up to 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I did have my hand up earlier. I just wanted to clarify for the lay members of in the meeting the difference between late refreshment and alcohol sale. That's not something I understand.
I'm afraid I will ask that of the officers, but you're not yet permitted to ask questions of this phase. But I'll ask that during members' questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I represent St Peter's Residents Association. this evening. We cover the area from Vencourt Place, which includes Revilius House, through to British Grove in the west. The association is very keen to see the Black Bull brought back to life, but as we've heard, there are a number of concerns about the current application. As Mr. Toy has mentioned, when the previous license was granted, this was an area of commercial buildings, including the hotel, which at that time was the council finance offices. But as we have heard, the area has evolved, and in the overlap between Revilius House becoming residential and the pub being in operation, there were multiple issues. I think one of our concerns is that the police review and conditions really relate to prevention of crime and disorder, and not so much in terms of the disruption and the impact on residents for understandable reason. So it is very important to understand that this is a residential area and a hotel, and not a mixed area. And so the type of hours of operation which are generally acceptable for a mixed area do not apply here. And indeed, more of the remaining offices are due to be, or have applied to be converted to residential, with that application due to be determined tomorrow, 10th of September. The architecture of the area is also important. It's effectively a building canyon with an extensive forecourt. The height of the buildings is what I'm talking about, which will trap sound in place in the area, which will echo. And concerns related to that, even if the forecourt is cleared, the bifold doors of the building are large and extensive, so inside-outside noise is not really a criteria that applies. Also of concern is the additional disturbance due to deliveries and collections, particularly waste glass collections, which will be inside working hours, but outside licensing hours. Typically, this happens in the early morning. Other issues will be cooking and smoking odours, again, exacerbated by that canyon effect. Our review also identifies that the lavatory provision on the drawing in Appendix 3 appears insufficient. So at the very least, we would expect something more along the opening hours similar to the Carpenter's Arms, also in a residential area, with additional conditions around CCTV for 24-hour operation, not just during license hours, with sound. We're also concerned that the conditions require that the licensee are asked to take measures for customers to leave quietly. It's not to require that they leave quietly, it's to take measures. I think, in summary, really, this part of Hammersmith is well provisioned with pubs. Some of those are shown on Appendix 3 map, but there are others well beyond. This will really add, in its current form, very little to our community, with major downsides, as we've heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Askins. Next on my list is Liz Knight, who wasn't in the meeting previously and still is not. So I will move to William Aylward, who is also speaking on behalf of Dr. Hazel Willis, so has up to 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members of the subcommittee. Apologies again for my camera not working. My name is William Aylward. I'm here to speak on behalf of Dr. Hazel Willis, a local resident. I'll start by saying that Dr. Hazel Willis is a chartered psychologist, an associate fellow of the British Psychological Society, and one of the first principal fellows of the Higher Education Academy. Her statement begins to say that both Revilius House and the Premier Inn have bedrooms facing the Black Bull. In addition, Revilius House has balconies facing the Black Bull. When the pub was last operational, both owners and tenants in Revilius House suffered with loud music and considerable levels of noise from the Black Bull and from those leaving the Black Bull, as has been stated by the previous respondents. The challenges did disappear with the various closures of the Black Bull over the years. However, the more recent conversion of the first floor of the Black Bull to residential flats has resulted in particularly loud music from one of the flats, usually in the late afternoon and evening, due to the single glazed nature of the building, something which should be on record. So to say that it is not it's not worthwhile looking at the previous state of the previous ownership of the pub is irrelevant. It's actually to do with the structure itself. Unlike the environment prior to 2016, when the Revilius House plot was offices, the area is now almost 100% residential. The intervening years since the closure of the Black Bull has seen the area now served by the growth of online ordering, development and appropriateness of local independent stores and other premises in the area with alcohol licenses in close proximity. The statement of licensing policy states that the licensing authority is keen to support the license sector and leisure offer within the borough, but it would appear that now in 2025, this has already been well achieved in the area. Recreating disruption for residents as suggested would be problematic and particularly unfair for Revilius House residents and for Premier Inn guests. It would be highly detrimental to approve the requested license where alcohol could be purchased, taken outside the premises and drunk in the area outside. In addition, the idea of a music license in the requested hours will further impact residents of Revilius House on all elevations of the building, but particularly those on the lower levels opposite the Black Bull. In my professional opinion as a psychologist, whilst the recent commitment to reduce the opening hours is welcome, not being able to sleep before 11:30 p.m. by the time people leave in terms of the revised proposal is far too late from a health standpoint. It is especially inappropriate for those with early morning starts and is in direct opposition to guidelines for healthy sleep patterns for well-being. These state the need to relax before preparing for sleep phases and supported by the National Institute for Health findings. All scientific evidence centers on the need for appropriate timings of circadian rhythms for appropriate sleep cycles in both adults and for children, and frequently stated in British Heart Foundation publications. Psychological research further outlines the need for sleep between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. to allow all sensory systems to prepare for sleep. The proposed opening hours would obstruct this. As a professional in the field, I cannot overstate the negative effects of lack of sleep on hormones, metabolism, and both physical and mental health. People leaving the Black Bull will disturb the sleep of all residents in the area. A consideration should also be made in terms of the impact on local businesses between the Black Bull and Ravenscourt Park tube lines, and further to late night businesses along King Street in both directions. This is a community that is respectful of both supporting and knowing each other. The safe walk from the tube is currently underpinned by the friendly and known people in these premises, and attracting strangers to the area may be inconsistent with the current safe walk home that many people in Revilius House enjoy. In summary, the proposal of the sale of alcohol at the Black Bull, even in the currently proposed reduced hours, will still significantly negatively impact Revilius House residents, their sleep patterns, and thus their physical and mental health and well-being. Importantly, the license granted in the early days of Revilius House was under very different circumstances. A different business environment and appropriate music was only on Sunday afternoons. Most importantly, the considering of a new license decision should now reflect the present situation of a residential zoned area, the need for a safe environment for all residents, the prevention of public nuisance, and the appropriate environment for all residents, their families, and visitors. This is my professional opinion. Dr. Hazel Willis, Counselor Psychology, MBA, ACC, AFSB, PFHEA, resident and owner of Revilius House. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aylward, for your representation. Lastly, please may I turn to Michael Harley. You have up to 5 minutes. Thank you.
I don't think William finished the other representation for himself.
Oh, we need to make a point of order for that, for the report. I think that Mr. Overton should have some evidence that a report by Urban Matrix was submitted on Friday, which is a specialist report into urban planning opposing the pub.
And William, you're going to spend time just going through that report.
Thank you. Can I ask the Mr. Overton, did you to comment on the report?
I'm just trying to find that, Chair. Actually, no, I can't see. I haven't got sight of that report at the moment. I don't know whether we can confirm which email address it was sent to, or whether receipt was received for that email when it was sent, or we don't appear to have it. We certainly haven't got it in the papers anyway for this evening.
It was certainly submitted before the deadline. I can guarantee that.
Do you know who it was sent to? The only reason I ask is that the person who normally deals with this, Matthew Tucker, is currently on leave at the moment. So I don't know whether it went to his. Yeah.
And the licensing at lbhf.co.uk as well.
Okay. Yeah, Chair, I can have a look into that certainly now, but we don't have it at the moment. But I'll certainly try and see. Sorry, did you say that was sent on Friday last week?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that now. Thank you.
Also, could William still spend time speaking about it?
Sorry, Calliope, I'm very sorry. We're not allowed cross-referencing from other objectors, I'm afraid. Well, I think because you will have time to sum up. So in that regard, I think it's best to keep things moving in the sort of in the interests of time, making sure everyone gets to speak. So I would like to move to Michael Harley to speak for up to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. A lot of points have already been made, so I just want to emphasise 3 things. The first is to introduce myself. I'm a resident of Ravilious House, and I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I've got a new baby on the way. I have, my daughter's attended local school and local nursery, and now walks back exactly along the path outside the Blackpool. So I do have like first-hand experience of what it's like here, and I know a lot of the other parents and kids around. And I can tell you that everyone has exactly the same opinion, that it already could be a lot safer walking around this area. There is already antisocial, more mugging activity, antisocial activity going on, and there is enough to worry about as a parent with kids walking around. If you come around here at between 3:30 and 6, 7 in the evening, there are, and it's not an exaggeration, there are hundreds of children walking home alone past that pub, hundreds and hundreds. To allow a pub to open up in that venue, you almost could not imagine a worse venue to do it. It literally is right smack in the middle of 5 schools where kids are, as I say, are walking home regularly on their own. It is just simply not an appropriate place. Maybe it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago when it originated. It is no longer the case, and it really does seem insane for it even to be considered. Second point I want to make is the last time it was opened. So what would we have to believe to make us think that this will be okay? Well, one would you think that, well, if it was okay last time, it would be okay this time. I have to, reinforce the evidence already given that last time was a nightmare for us here. It was really a nightmare. I live on the opposite side, but my experience walking past there, and for some reason, a lot of my deliveries seemed to go to that pub. I had to go in there several times. It was a very, very distasteful venue. There were a lot of unsavory characters lingering outside. There were people urinating in the streets. There were people smoking and what looked like taking illicit drugs down Vencourt Place. This is not us locals imagining that these things might happen. These things did happen before, and now the area is even more residential. So from our point of view, why would we think this will be different this time around? Lastly, it might be easy to think we could be accused of NIMBYism. Okay, we don't want this in our area. But let me just try and combat that. We are blessed with some of the nicest pubs, I think, in the whole of the UK in this area. We have many, many lovely pubs, which all of us on this call and lots of people in the area all really, really approve of. There's not a single one I can think of that I'd like to shut down. We are blessed with many wonderful pubs. Why do we need another right in between 5 schools? It really, really makes no sense. But fully on board with pubs. Hospitality is what makes this area great, but not there. It is completely the wrong place in the way that King Street, Vencourt Place is now set up. It is simply the wrong place. That's all. We don't mind that they are, but not there. So to sum up, from a kid's point of view, it's a no. last time around, it really was a disaster. We really can't experiment with that again. And thirdly, we're fully on board with pubs, but it's just the wrong place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holly, for your representation. I would now like to turn to the applicant. Mr. Warren, you have up to 50 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Chair, I prepared as if I had 5 minutes like I have done previously, so I might be able to slow down a few minutes, but I won't be taking all of that time. May I make an observation firstly, which is obviously if there was any report submitted on Friday that's been referred to, and I believe Adrian's trying to find out about that, I haven't seen it either. So any evidence that's submitted that I haven't seen, we would need to have a look at that, I think, for it to be fair. But obviously that's something I think, first of all, let's find out where it was submitted to, and then we can go from there. Chair and committee members, I've listened very carefully, and so has Bashar Gregorian, who's sitting next to me, to what's been said and the concerns that have been raised, and I'll address those in my representations. Some of which, obviously, we take those concerns seriously. Some of them, respectfully, are probably not relevant to the licensing application. Some of them, I think, are probably tarring Mr. Gregorian with the brush of an operator who clearly didn't care about their community previously. And I'll come on to why that might not be the case here, and why actually Mr. Gregorian has a much larger interest in ensuring that this premises operates properly and promotes the licensing objectives. The application as has been stated, set out on pages 4 to 7 of the report. There was the one change of recorded music Friday and Saturday to cease at 11 o'clock rather than midnight, which had been proposed. And there is a significant and robust operating schedule agreed with the police at pages 5 to 7, which does include, following some comments, condition number 4, which requires the DPS or manager to ensure where necessary customers leave the premises do so quietly, and clear and legible notices to remind customers to leave quietly. It was something that came up in one of the representations, hence I've referred to it here. As a result of the changes we made, you'll see at page 8 of the papers that the police obviously withdrew their representation, and their withdrawals at page 42. The council noise team withdrew, which is at page 7 of the supplemental bundle, and the public safety team withdrew, which is at page 3 of the supplemental bundle. So we have no responsible authorities objecting to this application here today. You'll have seen and obviously read all the papers, Chair, so I don't intend to go through everything in detail, but at pages 54 to 58, you'll see the submissions made on behalf of my client as part of this application, which sets up some detail and history of the pub. But just for a little bit of background and to remind everyone, the pub has been licensed under the 2003 Licensing Act ever since that act came into force in 2005, and was licensed previous to that under the 1964 Licensing Act. This is a pub with a long and storied history. The premises was closed in around 2017 by the previous owner, and the license was surrendered thereafter. Had that license not been surrendered and my client been able to transfer it, then obviously there would have been no hearing, and the hours on the current or on the previous license that you'll see in the report, as a copy of the previous license has been provided, would set out that they would have had the much later hours, including the 1 a.m. On the Fridays and Saturdays, that was applied for by my client at the time, mirroring the license that had been surrendered, which is pretty standard form to do it that way around. The building was empty for a period of time and attracted antisocial behaviour, including graffiti and homelessness, and was purchased by my client in 2023. Of interest to you and to the residents, he owns the building with the Premier Inn Hotel in it, and so has a vested interest in ensuring the pub promotes the licensing objectives and doesn't disturb the guests of his, well, Premier Inn's hotel in his building. He put in the residential flats above, so again has no interest in putting anything underneath there that would jeopardize his investment in those 2 flats. Now, my understanding is those flats are actually double glazed, but if there is an issue with loud music from one of the tenants, we would invite anyone who has an issue with that to obviously speak to Mr. Gregorian, and he can obviously try and reassure them and speak to the tenants, or otherwise, if there is an issue, obviously, then there is a route to object or to complain to your environmental protection officers. However, this was a pub, has been a pub for a very long time, and Mr. Gregorian is looking to return it to being a pub. He will not operate it himself. He's looking for a tenant who sees its potential to become a community asset, but it will need a tenant to come in who understands and is sensitive to the needs of the area. And that is in Mr. Gregorian's interest as much as it is the residents. So quickly, just some observations on the application and representations. Firstly, we were never applying to open a nightclub, as some of the residents suggest in their representations. In fact, paragraph 2 of page 7 of your report makes it clear the application was for a traditional British pub. Secondly, paragraph 2 of page 7, you will note that the report says that the area is in a mixed commercial and residential area itself. This committee will know, obviously, that premises do not always open to the full extent of any hours granted, and in fact, pubs regularly close earlier, but flexibility is important, especially in attracting good tenants, which is what Mr. Gregorian wants to do here. We do understand that there are effectively some framework hours, but the hours we agreed with the Environmental Protection Officer were the hours that he proposed. You obviously do have the right to consider separate hours, and if you want to ask any questions about that, obviously I'll be delighted to answer them. Thirdly, in relation to the representations which you'll have considered, a number are in template form and request a 10 p.m. close, and the committee would appreciate that this would not be commercially viable for a pub. Paragraph 5.1 of your report at page 8 does make the point that the licensing authority is keen to support the licensed sector and leisure offer within the borough, with a particular focus on business resilience and growing a robust and thriving cultural and leisure sector. We are looking, therefore, to balance attracting a good operator with the promotion of the licensing objectives, which I imagine in the committee's eyes is a positive, and also something the committee would look to do themselves when considering and deliberating on this application. The committee will have also seen references and heard today about the references to previous operators of the pub. Respectfully to those comments, that's not this operator, and tarring them with the same brush of someone who clearly didn't care about the licensing objectives before is, I think, an unfair thing to say. I mean, why can this not be a lovely pub, like one of the residents mentioned, an asset to the community? There is no reason why not, and with careful thought and the right tenant in there, there's absolutely every chance it could do that. And I simply do not agree with the submission, I'm afraid, that any pub here by its existence would undermine the licensing objectives. Otherwise, there'd be no pubs in residential areas, no pubs near schools, and all the other things that the residents say mean that this area and this pub is not the right place. My understanding is that this pub license wasn't ever reviewed, so no one's actually tested that this pub should never be there. There are other pubs in the area, but actually, if you look at your own list of premises on Appendix 3 at page 36 and the list of nearby premises at pages 37 to 41, none of the pubs that apparently are nearby appear on that list because they're actually slightly further away than is suggested. The concerns about late night migration I don't think are likely, because 3 of those 4 pubs, the 3 that haven't been mentioned, all have hours that are similar to those that we're applying for here. And finally, this is a small pub. If you look at the plans at page 26 of your pack, you'll see that actually it has the trade area marked on it, which is very limited. Just under 10 meters by 8 meters is a very small area for a pub. And remember, and it's worth reminding yourselves that this application only deals with the internals, which is very limited, as you'll see. The condition we've agreed on, no drinking outside until there has been an application separately applied for drinking outside, means that people can't take drinks outside at the moment. Now, in full transparency, that is something that my client, if you're minded to grant this application, would be keen to look at having outside drinking areas. The previous license clearly did allow for it, and we appreciate that the residents say that that was not well run. But if we were to make an application to vary the license to allow for drinking outside, we would hope and invite the residents to come and meet with us beforehand and discuss what the plans were, and indeed, no doubt, make representations to you as to what they think would be appropriate, and we can make representations as to what we feel would be appropriate. But that's for another day, not for this application. My submission, therefore, is that given the size and scope of the application, the hours and activities agreed with your officers, it's submitted the application can be granted as amended. As I say, in agreement with your officers who gave considerable scrutiny to this application, made representations in the first place, and then came back and satisfied themselves the application would not undermine the licensing objective. Chair, those are my submissions, and obviously I'd invite any questions when the time comes.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. With regards to the report that Mr. Aylward referenced earlier, I have been in discussion with officers, and they have the report. It was submitted on Friday, as Mr. Aylward correctly pointed out. Thus, we will have a short adjournment. The report is 7 pages, so we'll have a short adjournment of 15 minutes from the point at which the licensing authority sends it to everyone. Then we will reconvene after 15 minutes, giving us all the chance to read Mr. Elwood's report, and then we will turn to committee questions afterwards. So can I ask Adrian to confirm once the report has been distributed, and then we shall return to the hearing.
Thank you, Chair. I've just sent it over now, and yeah, please accept our apologies for missing that on Friday. Mr. Elwood is quite right; it was sent over to us, but as I said, we did miss that. We thought it was something to do with the notice of hearing, so I've just sent it over now. I've also sent it over to the applicant as well, so Piers, you should have that as well.
Chair, as a point of order, then, will I be allowed to make additional submissions on that report once we've all had a chance to consider it?
Can I pass that on over to Adrian?
Yeah,
Chair, can I interject? I think it's in your discretion, but I think once the applicant reviews this report, I think it's only fair for them to have any additional questions or make submissions.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
But it's up to your discretion, obviously.
I think, Mr. Warren, as you had 50 minutes and you have undershot that substantially, then yes, you once we've all read the report, I'll allow you to come back on that one. So yes, we'll adjourn from now for 15 minutes. Hello, everyone. By my watch, that's 15 minutes, which has passed since we have received the report. So I would like to resume the hearing. So first of all, Mr. Warren hadn't used up his remaining time, so I will turn to the applicant to ask if you have any further things you would like to say in light of this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'll keep this fairly brief and just some overall observations. I'm not sure it really adds much more to what was said, in particular by Mr. Toy, who I think covered all the points in the report quite admirably. Firstly, what I would say is that Mr. Gregorian would very much like to build a relationship with the residents. If anyone did want to speak to him, he would be available, and obviously we put our details out previously. The comment in the report that the majority of premises closed by 2300 hours, well, your own report at pages 37 to 39 suggests that there are a significant number of premises in the immediate vicinity with later hours. And indeed, actually, the pubs in the area that aren't on that report, Salutation, the Hammersmith, Bennet and Cross Keys, all advertise later hours than 11 PM, especially at weekends. A lot of pubs sit in high density residential neighbourhoods and near schools, and the vast majority, and I'm talking the vast majority, do so without any issue or without undermining any of the licensing objectives. And as a person who goes to the pub myself, suggesting that people who go to pubs are all noisy individuals prone to violence, I take a little bit of umbrage about that. I mean, that significantly majorities of people who go to pubs comport themselves with the best of behaviour, and it's for the pub to manage those people who don't do so. Adding conditions to a licence is good practice. It's not a sign of concern about the operation of the premises. The police will want to see these conditions on all licences, and I'm sure this committee's seen them on many others. Public nuisance is not inevitable, and again, there would be no pubs in any residential areas if it was. And if there are issues, then obviously the mechanism is for a review. The whole point is the legislation was intended to be fairly light touch. And then if there are issues, there is a mechanism by which residents can review. And I think an observation made by a couple of the residents earlier in the report is that actually the pub was open when people moved into this block of flats. So those who were overlooking it at the time they moved in when the pub was open were aware there was an operating pub there. And indeed, those who moved in later would have seen it was a pub, and even if it was shut at the time, must have had some reasonable expectation that it might reopen in the future. Chair, those are all my comments about the report, and therefore I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warren. So now we turn to committee questions, and can I ask each committee member to ask questions of any party about the application and issues that have been raised at the hearing in relation to the 4 licensing objectives, which, need I remind us, are firstly, the prevention of crime and disorder, number 2, public safety, number 3, the prevention of public nuisance, and number 4, the protection of children from harm. So I just have a couple to kick off with. So first of all, in relation to something I believe Mr. Askins raised, can I ask the licensing officer just to, for the benefits of all present, to clarify the difference between alcohol sales and late night refreshments for us?
Happy to do that, Chair. So yes, late night refreshment is the provision of hot food and drinks from 11 o'clock in the evening until 5 o'clock in the morning, and then the sale of alcohol is, as it says, the sale of alcoholic beverages. Obviously, it's a bit tricky when you're looking at a license to see that late night refreshment only starts at 11 o'clock. You don't need a license, before that time for that particular activity. So that's the difference.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for clarifying that. Second question, quick question from myself is, obviously we saw the report after Mr. Aylward had made his representations, and the applicant sort of has responded in that. I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Aylward, if there's anything in the report you would like to particularly draw the committee's attention to that hasn't sort of hitherto been mentioned.
Thank you. I think it's important that I mean, Mr. Warren seems to have dismissed statistical evidence that crime is increased around public houses. You know, this is not just us making claims. This is statistical evidence from government papers. So I think dismissing that out of hand is actually quite dangerous. I think that Mr. Warren has also belittled the presence of schools in the area. Need I remind him that yes, of course, there are pubs near other schools in the rest of the UK, but this is one of the most densely populated schools areas, as in there's more schools per capita in this district than any other area in the country, which makes its location unique. And I think we should not be overlooking that. The last point I would say is that in terms of noise and control, I'm sure Mr. Gregorian is a very nice gentleman, but unless he's going to be standing outside and gagging these people on their way out, the residents are definitely going to have disturbed sleep if people are exiting at 11 p.m. So unless we're all expected to be going to bed after midnight, and I'd be happy to be compensated for that if that's the case. But I think that that also needs to be taken into account and not belittled in the way that it has been so far.
Thank you, Mr. Elwood. I'd like to other committee members. Councillor Alfonso.
Thank you, Chair. My first question, I'm happy to aim it at any of the objectors. A lot has been made of the safety of children. Maybe Ms. Florides, could you expand on maybe colouring that, giving more specific example of what you see the dangers as both in the report and in submissions this evening? It's been a bit light, but that's clearly an issue that you guys feel passionately about. So would one of you want to colour that a bit more?
Yes. Well, living right next to the Black Wall, and yes, not all patrons are intoxicated and dangerous, but they're certainly subject to bringing intoxicated people to the area. I know I've walked past it many times, and with young children, and you feel deeply. I don't think when you're looking at this as an application, it's easy to fully contextualize the property to the residential. You have an offset off the main road pub. It's set back with a large forecourt that's partially hidden, and you're in an area where visibility, particularly at nighttime, it's like almost going down an alleyway, and lining that alleyway with people who are intoxicated. They will be drinking alcohol. We know inhibitions are lowered in alcohol. And when you have young children that are part of the residential property that faces it and encourages people to sit outside with full view of, we have big floor to ceiling windows in our apartment, just getting changed as a woman feels vulnerable. I will have to always make sure my curtains are closed. Children can be viewed. You lose that ability. And the whole premises is a busy, yes, King Street's a busy road. And as they leave, it's, there are other issues of safety. But it's almost worst of both worlds, because it's private enough that if somebody wants to do something, they can even hide down the alleyway a little and just watch, and it's dark. And so it's a vulnerable situation that there's no, it creates this kind of unsafe feel, and it's very real. It's very real.
Thank you for that. I do have one follow-up. I hear all that. So is the main concern with there being a license full stop, or would it be with the lateness of the current license? Would it be people spilling out at 11, for example?
It's primarily the lateness. It's the lateness. They're asking for extremely late hours that are not compatible just trying to sleep, because I did live near the Black Bull. And actually, when I moved into the property, the Black Bull was closed and we were expecting the venue to change. So that statement of we should have known there's a pub there is not true. It wasn't open and operating. When it did operate, even people just standing in the forecourt talking resonates straight into the property. And you hear it so loudly. And at that hour of night, everything else in that area is silent. And so you hear everything. And just the voices of these baritone voices standing there, you don't know, it just travels straight through. And it's deeply disturbing. And I would invite anyone on this call to come and spend one night in my apartment whilst that pub is operating and see if you would like to live with it. It's so deeply distressing. And Mr. Gregorian, how could you guarantee us that this pub will be running smoothly and without noise when you're not even going to be the operator? And you're clearly wanting more, and you state that it's a small venue, but that forecourt is huge. It's huge. And it could probably seat 30 people, 40 people, if done correctly. And you've asked for sale of alcohol on and off the premises. I assume you can even set up a bar in the outdoors and sell alcohol there. So everything you're asking for is not giving the residents of Ravilius House confidence that you're trying to make it a nice pub with the operating music at late hours. A nice pub does not have music playing at unreasonable hours and does not put this pressure on the neighboring community. You will not attract anyone from Ravilius House to go to that pub, which means you're going to be trying to attract other people. And it's really, I speak with passion because I've lived it. I also come from a hospitality background and my family are in hospitality. So I know what it is to run a hotel and to run a restaurant. And I know what comes with that. And again, it's just a very incompatible business for the area. And they stated that it's a mixed use area. But my understanding is that the last commercial space is changing to a residential space probably tomorrow. And so this is not a mixed use area. This is a heavily residential area. And within my bedroom window is within 4 meters from that forecourt. So just imagine that when you're making your decision, a voice alone will carry through.
Sorry, Councillor Alfonso, just addressing Mr. Askins. I saw there was no other hands up. You're not allowed to interject unless a member asks a specific question of you. Just to clarify that matter. Sorry, Councillor Alfonso, continue.
No, Chair, I will. That's all for now from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harcourt.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a number of questions, but I think, in terms of transparency and fairness, I would like to ask, could I ask the same question that Councillor Alfonso has asked to Mr. Askins?
Thank you, Councillor Harcourt. Much appreciated. Yes, what I was going to pick up Councillor Alfonso's question as a father of older children in the area. The concern is that with also since the previous licence was granted, we've now got West London Free School in the area. Obviously, Latimer has been there with sixth formers and so forth for some time. But the concern really, and Floridi's touched a little bit on this, from that the area is well provisioned with pubs, so the Black Bull will need to do something different, and the chances are it may then end up in a similar place to where the previous licensee found themselves, which would include obviously attracting younger drinkers, possibly underage drinkers, from those schools and from the residential area, just to be able to pay their rent Mr. Gregorian, and the other fees and charges. So, as a parent of older children, it's not just the impact on preschool, primary school, and sub 16. It's also on that vulnerable age group between the 16 to 19 ages that live in the area and are schooled in the area. Because it's also important to say that it really is a hub. It's a very concentrated educational area, and that has developed since the original or the previous license was granted. Thank you very much, Councillor Harcourt and Councillor Alfonso, for the question.
Yes, thank you for that. Going back then, just as for a point of clarification, so I suppose it's to Adrian Overton. In the application, there's a section listed non-standard hours. It talks about New Year's Eve. Sorry, I've got one of these horrible flies around me. New Year's Eve and Sundays, which didn't come across clear to me as to what it actually was asking. Could you clarify that, please?
Yes, certainly, Councillor. So I think that particular non-standard timing says New Year's Eve except Sunday, 11 o'clock in the morning until the start of permitted hours on the following day, and on a Sunday, midday until the start of permitted hours on the following day. So I believe that is purely for New Year's Eve, but I don't know whether that's maybe one to direct towards the applicant, just to clarify that. I don't want to misrepresent if I try to explain it myself, but...
Okay, Mr. Warne, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, that is purely an extension for New Year's Eve, which is something that sort of was in the original license. Now, if the committee were minded to say, well, actually, we don't want extensions on New Year's Eve like that, then anyone could apply for a temporary event notice for New Year's Eve to go to later hours. It's simply an extension that sits on a significant number of licenses. I'm sure Adrian can confirm that, to avoid people having to go for temporary event notices for later hours on New Year's Eve.
Thanks. Okay, back to Mr. Overton. Again, I'm aware, obviously, having seen the number of objections and heard the objections here tonight, but a lot of those objections still referred to variation in the application or renewal of that application. Does that in any way rule those out? Or,
no,
or what is the position, or has that been clarified and they've been accepted as full objections? Representations, rather.
Certainly, yeah, no, exactly that, Councillor. Yeah, all the representations in the pack have been accepted as valid representations. We do, we accept that sometimes residents aren't going to know exactly the terminology to use when they're talking about a particular application. As long as they've made it clear, they've maybe put the address of the premises or they've used the reference number, then we're happy to accept those applications as valid. It's only if they've completely spoken about a completely different application that we would have to go back and clarify, or if they haven't mentioned any, one or more of the 4 licensing objectives, but all of the representations in the pack are valid.
Okay, thanks very much for that. That's good to hear. One of the objectors raised the point about the forecourt. I will come back to Mr. Warne about the use of the forecourt and its future use in just a minute. But one of the points that was made was that even under this application, the pub could set up a bar outside. Is that correct, or are the actual premises, the licensed premises area, does it include the forecourt at the moment, even though the applicants have said they are not going to use that?
So as I understand it, so the forecourt area belongs to the premises. It's part of the premises, and because the premises have applied for the sale of alcohol on and off the premises, they could technically, people could sit in the outside area and consume alcohol, because the consumption of alcohol is not a licensable activity. It's only the sale of alcohol. But the applicant has agreed to put a condition on the license that says that no drinks shall be in that external, and the exact wording, it's no drinks to be permitted to be taken into the external area until this condition has been removed by way of a variation to the premises license. So I think that they're making a point to say to residents that they're not going to use that area for the consumption of alcohol. But again, I don't know if the applicant would be able to just clarify that point.
Just to clarify then, so that if this application were to be granted, then they, given that condition that we've just mentioned, they would not be setting up a bar, an outdoor bar, as has been set up in other pubs not too far away.
No, they wouldn't be able to. That would be contrary to that condition. Correct.
They would need a variation. That would be correct. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So
may I comment
on
that as you asked me to,
Councillor
Hart? So the reason for that was that there was a discussion with the licensing officers when the application was in and under consultation as to whether actually the external area could be used under this license. Mr. Gregorian agreed with him that for the time being, that this license application would only deal with the interior of the pub, but with an express intention that if we do want to use the external area, which is a good opportunity, good chance that we would do in the future, we would have to come back and vary the license. To put an external bar in, we would also have to include that on the license as well. So as it stands, this application is purely for the internals only, and the condition that was proposed, no drinks to be permitted to be taken into the external area until this condition is removed, would prevent anyone taking drinks outside. So inevitably, we have to come back before this committee because there will be objections should we try and vary the license to allow for drinking in the outside area. And we could all discuss that as a standalone issue as to what might be reasonable and what might not be.
Okay. Do you have plans for the future use of the outdoor area?
Yes, as I say, it was a discussion. The previous premises license permitted use of the outside area and had conditions on it about the garden closing at 11:10, strangely. So yes, it has been used and would be used, but we do understand that that's a particularly sensitive area, and therefore in agreement with the licensing officer, Mr. Gregorian agreed that at this stage for this application, we would park that issue to one side. But yes, of course, we would want to look at it. We would need to obviously convince you and the residents that it could be done without undermining the licensing objectives and in a reasonable way. But that's not here for today. But I just want to be totally open and transparent that that is something that we would want to look at in the future, but that's not for today.
No, I appreciate that, but it obviously it's an area of concern. Right, yeah. A couple of other points. Mr. Gregorian has said that he's not going to be running the premises himself, but he will be a covenanted tenant. How are you going to go about making sure that this new tenant is going to abide by everything? We've all had experience of premises where somebody said they'll do something and things have changed and not happened. Will you be monitoring it? How will that be dealt with? Because presumably transferring a license is perfectly legitimate.
Of course, as we said in our submissions, Mr. Gregorian owns the flats above and owns the building with the Premier in it. So he has a very vested interest in this pub not undermining the licensing objectives of causing nuisance to his own, to the hotel guests and to his own tenants. He will be and has been in contact with two of the biggest agents who specialise in pubs, to try and find the right kind of tenant. Part of the reason that he applied for this application rather than waiting for a tenant, waiting to find a tenant, is that no tenant sensibly would take on a premises without a premises license. So effectively, he's had to do that, and we have put it, well, he put in the application, and he's instructed me to assist in terms of making sure that there is a license there that strikes that balance for being able to attract good tenants, and promote the licensing objectives. But as I say, part of the way it works is that you have a premises license which will have conditions on it, as you've seen, and set hours, etc. You also have a lease agreement or a tenancy agreement, which requires tenants to, first of all, uphold the law, but also to do whatever's required within that tenancy agreement. So that can include conditions around things like preventing noise and doing sound reports and all kinds of things like that are necessary. For a tenant to be able to even be considered, they'd have to put forward a business plan to Mr. Gregorian, and he would have to okay it as being sensible and appropriate for this site. So there's quite a few measures that go into this place, starting with the agents understanding that this isn't a place that, just any old tenant can come to, because there will be concerns that it's no good for Mr. Gregorian to put someone in there who's immediately going to have the license revoked because they have you know, they're cavalier about what needs to be done. I'm afraid the company that had the license before are a very, very large national company, and sometimes any old tenant will do. And I don't mean that as a criticism, because pub companies obviously have to manage very large estates, but he has a personal vested interest in this that makes him different from those companies.
So presumably you would be considering inserting in the conditions somewhere or other the idea that this will be some sort of community-based community involvement, etc.
Yes, I mean, like all these things, the pub trade is in decline, and it's a difficult time for pub companies at the moment, as you'll appreciate, and for pub operators. But there are good operators out there who like to do the community thing, open all day, try and attract different groups into their pubs. With any luck, with a premises license, the agents will be able to go out and find a range of people. They'll put forward their business plans, and the best one will be chosen that suits the location. And as I say, his interest is not in getting the one that seems to be the best, you know, the biggest and brightest. It's about the one that's most compatible, because his vested interest is in the hotel and the flats above as well.
May I speak?
Sorry, Mr. Gregorian just wanted to comment on that, if that's okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. During 2017, when the tenant vacated and Punch Tavern were looking for a tenant, in the lease that I had with Punch, it had to be a covenant tenant. Since 2017, I have rejected 14 applications that Punch Tavern and Heineken, that bought out Punch Tavern afterwards, that have made to come and take the pub and run the pub. And they were all non-covenant tenants. So since 2017 till now, until I purchased the property in 2023, I have rejected 14 applications which was submitted to me by Heineken and Punch Tavern. All of this was money for me. If I was a businessman and wanted to make money and didn't care about the community, I would have accepted all these people just to come pay the rent. And me as a landlord would take that money and be happy. But I rejected them because they were all non-covenant tenants. Currently, I'm dealing with AG&G and Fleuret's, two of the best pub agents, to try and find a tenant. But I will not continue unless I have the license to get a good covenant tenant, because I also have an interest in my tenants that are living upstairs. I also have an interest in my Premier Inn hotel, which has 130 rooms, and these are people that are coming in to sleep over, and they do need a good night's sleep. So I understand where everyone is coming from, but if I was purely just to get a license to make money, or I could have done that since 2017, but I constantly rejected applications coming in where the tenants were non-covenant.
Thank you. Still with you, Mr. Warren and Mr. Gregorian. One of the we've dealt with things about schools, children. One of the other things that came up was privacy and noise, and the state of the building, or they're saying that the building isn't up to dealing with noise and such like. Can you tell me what you are doing? Because you're obviously refurbishing to a greater or lesser extent the building in terms of noise and noise mitigation. Are you putting on self-closing doors, double glazed windows, mounts for speakers and such like, rubber mounts for speakers and such like, to reduce vibration, you know, the sort of things that I'm sure, Mr. Warren, you will have seen on other applications elsewhere?
Yes, and indeed, this is, we're kind of almost forced to do it this way around. So apply for the license so we can attract the tenants, so we can look at the business plans and then finalize exactly what goes into the fit out of the building. So whilst it's there as a structure with the bar where it is, we would anticipate anyone who came in with their plans would want to add extra furnishing, maybe fix furniture, that kind of thing. If they were looking to have any music at all, certainly anything above background, then of course it would be expected that they would put into place noise mitigation measures that were appropriate in those circumstances. And as I say, in terms of the use of the external area, that at the moment just simply cannot be used. So until we've got that resolved, and at the time that we come back to you for any external area, then obviously we can look at any conditions that are relevant there to using the external area, and issues that have come up, such as ensuring privacy and matters such as that. But for the building itself, yes, as I say, all of those matters will be taken into account depending on what the business plan looks like. We are not anticipating, we're definitely not going to be accepting someone who wants to come in and put an early evening, music venue in there, because that's just simply not appropriate for the building and the structure, etc., and for the neighbours upstairs. But as I say, until we see the business plan, all those things are we're open-minded about what will need to be done depending on what the offer is. For instance, if it's very much just a day offer, early evening, that is the most appropriate and the best one that comes forward, there may need to be no more works done to the premises. So yes, I can't give you the complete answer, but that's the process we will go through.
Okay. And that may include looking at things like obscured glass in windows to stop people looking out into the bedrooms opposite.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that would fit with the design scheme and all the other things when we've got a turn.
One final question, because I've been hogging this a little bit, is about the music. What sort of music? It says recorded music. What sort of music are you going to be playing? Extra loud Black Sabbath and Status Quo, or what?
One of those bands I like, one I don't, but I don't get to choose personally. No, again, in fitting with the building and the operation, the hours for recorded music, and indeed the application for recorded music was in there because we mirrored the application for the license that was there previously. As you know, under the Live Music Act, you can provide recorded music in the premises until 11 o'clock at night. Anyway, we're happy to have that 11 o'clock cut off because there is no intention of running it as a late night disco, even if you could with the hours that are there. So if an operator came along and said, I want to open a Black Sabbath stroke Status Quo tribute pub, they might not be top of the list for this kind of operation because it simply wouldn't fit. We would anticipate mainly background music, but with a community premises, there may be opportunities to do community events where there may be some recorded music. It's a small premises, but that would have to be appropriate and kept within the bounds of the premises, and we fully appreciate that. So in essence, the recorded music's almost become a moot point since we agreed the 11 o'clock.
Yeah, so how strongly do you feel about the end time of the music? So, given the issues that have been raised, if, for instance, we were to say impose a condition that the music ended early, would that be a problem?
We would then get into the entanglements of the Live Music Act and recorded music exemption, of course. And if there were ever a review of the license, those hours could be pulled back. But I mean, in theory, we have no issue with sort of the music hours being whatever this committee consider appropriate. The difficulty, of course, is that I think the residents would want to understand that there is the Live Music Act and recorded music exemption. We don't want to sort of look like we're hiding anything, if that makes sense. That's the best answer I can give you, really.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. I've said, I think, rather a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Harcourt. So from discos back to licensing policy, just a question for the licensing officer. Can I ask if the non-standard timings have been agreed with the police? I don't think I noticed that in the report back.
I don't think it was actually set out in the police's comments explicitly, but I think they would have mentioned if they had an issue with it, because that was part of the application. So they would have raised that in their representation and said, we want an amendment to this, or et cetera, et cetera. But I think we can assume from that they don't have an issue with the non-standard timings.
Chair, if it were an issue, we have no issue with removing the non-standard timing for New Year's Eve. It's one of those nice to haves, but we could apply for temporary event notices if that was felt to be the more appropriate way. It's just a way of avoiding having to use temporary event notices. But that's in your gift. We have no strong views on that, to be fair.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. Thank you. Well, I think you know the other councillors have covered everything I wanted to raise as well. So if there's no further questions from Councillor Harcourt or Alfonso, I will move to summing up. I will ask everyone in the order that they introduced to sum up as briefly as possible. So I would first like to call upon the licensing officer, Adrian Overton, to sum up, please.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing else to add from me. Only to apologise again for the oversight with the report that was sent to us and wasn't forwarded on. But no, nothing else apart from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Overton. Thank you. Now, I would invite Mr. Toy. You have 12 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor. I wasn't actually expecting to be able to speak, but that's very kind. I think what I was just trying to really think about was that Mr. Warren, on behalf of Mr. Gregorian, it seems a lot of what they're saying seems quite contradictory. So they're talking about, you know, they care for the area, they want a traditional British pub, and yet at the same time, I'm hearing that they are applying for the music license. We've now covered the fact that the music license, they don't really need it. It's just, you know, there because of historical reasons on a previous license application. But then at the same time, why don't you remove it? I don't really see why there's a misstep between what they're saying in terms of caring for the area and actually what could be done. If you cared for the area, then and you're aware that there's schools in the area, you're aware there's children passing by, and you've tried, I think you said you've had 14 applications from various potential pub operators, and you've rejected each one because you know you're not purely a businessman. But then surely if you're a businessman caring for the area, you would also be looking at alternative things that might be more in keeping in the area. So what's this sort of dogged, steadfast commitment to the provision of alcohol in this area if it's also clearly, you know, after 14 applications are rejected because they're not good enough, not meeting the criteria? It doesn't quite add up. You know, as a business person myself, I'd want that money coming in. So it's probably something Mr. Gregorian has to ask himself as well. But if care is the primary driver, then alternatives would have been sought, is the main point of that argument. And that's, you know, if someone can try and come up with an excuse, maybe Mr. Warren can, as to why that would be the case, that'd be super interesting. Other than that, you know, the operator not being someone that Mr. Gregorian will be directly ensuring is compliant on a day-to-day basis is a cause of concern. I don't know if there's any particular references can be made in terms of absent freeholders and the due diligence of their building. It tends to go the other way around, generally speaking. I'm not saying, I'm sure there can be exceptions to the rule, but they tend to not be quite as they say they are. And the fact is, this is not a pub that is going to be having dining. You know, it's a very small pub, so you've got a large outdoor area. It really seems to me more a drinking hole than a dining pub. So having that, as we've already discussed, in close proximity to schools in terms of thoroughfares, in terms of visibility, in terms of residential proximity, they're all things that I would think don't really correlate with this image put forward that this is someone who's caring for the area. I think that's probably it from me, but that covers a few points, and I hope the committee considers those.
Thank you, Mr. Toy. I now call upon Ms. Florides. You have up to 3 minutes to sum up. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I kind of echo what Freddie has said. You know, if a pub is not suitable, why not consider a change of use from a pub in its entirety and something more in keeping with the new residential area that would not be a detriment to the Premier Inn or the Revilius House. I think they've been very, very clear that they are going to seek to use the outside, and they just want to get this through, and the next step will then get the outside in use, and they've been very honest about that. And so this is, you know, just they've only omitted it from this application to get this one through, but you may as well consider both because there will be a variation. I think what else? Again, there's no guarantee that the operator will fulfill their duty. I've also experienced a previous operator not fulfilling their duty and extending beyond their operating hours. The procedure to get anything to happen to implement change, it was very difficult. I had to, on various occasions, call Hammersmith and Fulham Council. I had to wait for an officer to come to my apartment at midnight when I can't sleep, at midnight to come to my apartment to witness the breach of the noise or to witness the breach of the license. That was witnessed on multiple occasions and nothing happened. They didn't get shut down because of that. So to say that there's a process in place to implement the law is a very laborious process and very detrimental to the people in the flats and in the residential area. So I don't think that's fair either. I think probably Freddie picked up the rest of the items, so I'll concede that.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. I now call Mr. Askins. You have also up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I won't read all of those. I'd make a couple of observations in summary. Firstly, effectively, what we're discussing here this evening is an application for a new pub in the residential area, which is also a cluster of educational establishments and schools. The reason I say that is that really the precedent of the previous license is just not relevant due to the changes in the area. I'd thirdly say that the area is well provisioned with pubs catering to pretty much all conceivable needs, as Mr. Warren has described some of them, and we're in a sector in decline. So Black Bull will need to do something different. And this thing that was different before is not a place that we want to end up. I would also add that there are problems with the later permitted hours in pubs in residential areas, specifically at the Cross Keys. There's long-term problems which the council's always been supportive on. Carpenters with shorter hours, again, in the St. Peter's resolution area. Less of an issue. Picking up on some of the points that Mr. Toy made, the fact that Mr. Gregorian initially attempted to mirror the prior license does, to me, show a lack of consideration. And the concern over that is compounded by not self-operating and the requirement that, and is this pushing against a piece of string for tenants to comply. So really, from our point of view as the Residents Association, I think there's common ground here. We want to see something happen. We hope that the applicants can go away, work with residents, with the council and other parties to come up with a reasonable application, reasonable hours, CCTV for 24 hours, including sound to monitor that, and so forth. So we have hope that this establishment will be revitalised in some form, but we're there for the right proposal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Askins. I now invite Mr. Aylward, who has up to 6 minutes, as he's also speaking on behalf of Dr. Willis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you everybody else for your time. I'd like to sum up by saying that the area has changed since the pub was initially established, and I think we have to recognise that. We can call it a mixed-use area as much as we want, but go there, stand there, walk the streets, and you will see that it is overwhelmingly residential. And I believe that Calliope mentioned the last office building in the area is about to be converted into apartments. So we have to take that into consideration. In terms of the pub itself, we can put as much spin on it as we like, but at the end of the day, statistics do not lie. Alcohol and crime are correlated. There is no getting away from that. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. People leaving a late night premises, even if the premises was non-alcoholic, at 11 p.m. or later, will cause a disturbance, which will in turn cause harm from mental health, lack of sleep, etc. We have expert witness reports from both the urban surveyors, as you've seen, and a mental health specialist. So if there are counter arguments that the applicant would like to put forward, I would like to see the same. I would like to see expert witness reports from them. I am also very concerned by the lack of any mention of schools and children in the council's own report. It makes me question whether you've conducted thorough due diligence. And if you have, where your priorities actually lie. I think it's certainly potential grounds for appeal should this go through. And the residents of the area most certainly will appeal if it goes through on the current basis. So to the council, I urge you, please think of your residents, think of your voters, think of their well-being, think of their mental health, and reject this application. To Mr. Gregorian, I think I've never met you. You seem like a very nice man and a good businessman. We want businesses in the area. We don't want derelict buildings. Business is great. I'm a capitalist and I'm also a business advisor. You'll know a pub is a terrible investment. It is a massively declining industry. I'm advising an alcohol company at the moment. The sector is dying. So even if you were to secure the license and a tenant, you would probably be searching around for a long time and have them coming and going as they all failed. We want to work with you. So we urge you to apply for a change in the license, okay? I could find you tenants to replace it within a week. Cafes, gyms, restaurants, breakfast places, children's activities, these are all more in keeping with the area. And if you do this, we will 100% back you in your appeal to the council to get that change of license. We will be on your side. So let's go down that route instead. Let's not be adversaries. You will make a lot more money in the long term. You'll have more stability and you will make new friends. So let's come together on this. Turn down this application, okay? And let's work to make it something else, something we can all be proud of, that'll stand the test of time. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Elwood. And lastly, can I ask Mr. Harley, you have up to 3 minutes to sum up.
Thank you very much, Chair. I won't need that either. I'm just going to speak to one point because everything else has been said. None of us are anti-business. I really echo the last speaker's statements. I'm an entrepreneur, business owner myself, several times in the leisure sector as well. We fully support appropriate hospitality businesses in the area. It's partly why I live here. There's so many great ones. However, the application in question does not seem to reflect that wish. The applicant says he would like a traditional British pub. A traditional British pub closes early and does not play music. This application requests both. Now, I hear the applicant and I respect his entrepreneurship and I have nothing personally against him, but we have to take the facts as they are. What is in the application does not match what he said recently, a few minutes ago. There are plenty of other options. Okay, so again, that's my only point. This application does not match the wishes of people in this area, nor what the applicant has said himself. And for that reason, I really would urge you to reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harley. So I now turn to the applicant. Can I ask Mr. Warren to summarise? You have up to 30 minutes. Thank you very much.
Certainly won't take all of that. Thank you, Chair. But first and foremost, thank you everyone for taking part and for the constructive points that have been made. To Mr. Aylward, I'm sure Mr. Gregorian would like to speak to you about these potential tenants. The point of obtaining a premises license by a landlord is to attract tenants, and it's to attract the best tenants. Without a license, they simply won't be interested. And Mr. Aylward says, well, I can introduce you to restaurateurs and various others. A restaurant need a premises license in any event, and a lot of the premises licenses in this area go till later than we are applying for. Your own policy starts with a proposal which is it's keen to support the licensed sector, which is a difficult sector at the moment. But this is a storied pub with a significant history, with a landmark that at the moment is sitting in frankly, a bit of a building site with grass growing out of the ground around it. So much can be done to this site, but it was a pub. And indeed, we believe it can be a pub that promotes the licensing objectives. Something was made earlier on about Mr. Gregorian, contradicting himself by saying he's turned down lots and lots of tenants. Well, the truth of the matter is there is absolutely no point in him getting in a tenant if the license is simply going to be revoked 6 months later because they were an absolute nuisance to society. And it may be the case that he doesn't find a tenant for this premises, but he damn well isn't going to find one unless there's a premises license there that attracts good tenants to have a look at the site. And he is prepared to back himself to find the right person and return the pub to a community asset that it could be. If the committee were minded to do so, we would happily withdraw the recorded music from this application. But the residents need to understand that under the Live Music Act and recorded music exemption, you could still provide recorded music in the premises till 11 o'clock at night anyway. But if they wanted that as a statement of intent, we have no issue with that. This license application is only for the activities inside. Now, this isn't a staged attempt to try and get you to grant one little bit and then we'll come back for a second little bit. When Mr. Gregorian put the application in, he anticipated it would be on the same grounds as the previous license and therefore would include the external area within it. It was only after discussion with officers at the site where they suggested that actually his approach might be to do it this way that we agreed the condition to not use the external area. So this wasn't some kind of Machiavellian attempt by him to hoodwink anyone here. It was following advice from your officers. It is worth reminding you that he has other interests in the area, including the flats above and the hotel. And therefore, any tenant that comes into this premises will have to fit with his needs and align with those of the residents in ensuring that they don't undermine the licensing objectives. We've heard a lot about there being good pubs in the area, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of acceptance that this could be a good pub in the area. Some of those good pubs that are mentioned are in very highly residential areas. And I'm afraid I do maintain, as the report says, that this is a mixed-use area. Yes, there is more residential property, but there's lots of restaurants and there's lots of other activities that are not residential in the area, as the residents themselves say. And then finally, Chair, paragraph 9.12 of the guidance at page 77 states that each responsible authority will be an expert in their respective field, and in some cases it's likely that the particular responsibility will be, particular responsible authority will be the licensing authority's main source of advice in relation to particular licensing objective. You've had 3 officers scrutinise this application sufficiently to actually determine that they wanted to make representations on an application that effectively mirrored what was there before, which is a perfectly legitimate way to put in an application, by the way, where a license has been surrendered. The police improved the operating schedule, making it more robust, and they're the experts on climate disorder. The fact that CCTV in there says she'll only run during the operating hours is neither here nor there. Most CCTV systems operate for 24 hours anyway. And indeed, it's something that if you were minded to do so, no one would have an issue with you changing the wording so it said CCTV operated 24 hours. But as the police who are experts in crime and disorder and they don't have an issue with it, I would submit that there is no reason to do so. Your environmental protection officers scrutinised the hours, which were reduced, and then we reduced further the hours in relation to noise. And in fact, we will withdraw the recorded music if that assists, and we'll record the we'll withdraw on the New Year's Eve aspect of the application as well. But they were satisfied that this application met the licensing objectives, which is the test. And we respectfully, therefore, request this committee to conclude the same and grant as amended. Now, obviously, it's in your gift to look at hours and things like that, but I would remind you of your own policy on hours in terms of what should and should not be granted, and the mere fact that hours are granted doesn't mean that they'll always be operated. We will look for the right tenant for this premises. We will continue to work with the residents, and we'd invite them to, as they have said, engage with Mr. Gregorian to make sure that the right people are found and the premises operates in the right way. To simply reject it off the basis that it might end up being something else, I'm afraid is not a relevant consideration. And therefore, as I say, I respectfully request that you grant this application as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warne. So we move to deliberations. So the committee will now retire to take its decision in a separate meeting room. You are welcome to remain in the meeting to hear the committee's decision. However, this may take some time. If you don't want to wait, a summary decision will be published on the council's website tomorrow morning. And now can I ask members to turn off their video, mute their microphones, and join the private Teams meeting for deliberations. Thank you very much. Good evening. The committee's reached a decision, but first of all, can I just thank everyone for being here as outside business hours, and the officers as well. So that's very much appreciated. The committee has reached its verdict. So I'll read out the decision letter. So the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham summary decision of the licensing subcommittee, otherwise known as the committee, on the 9th of September 2025 for the Black Bull, 257 King Street, London, W6 9LU, otherwise known as the premises. So the committee has considered an application for the grant of a premises license under the Licensing Act 2003 for performance of recorded music indoors only, the provision of late night refreshment indoors only, and the sale of alcohol on and off the premises, which is known as the application. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all of the individual circumstances of this case and the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, to grant the application in part as follows. Number 1, the sale of alcohol on and off the premises Monday to Sunday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And number 2, the hours open to the public Monday to Sunday, 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. To add to the license the conditions proposed by the police and agreed by the applicant. Number 4, to add the proposed condition by the applicant that no drinks will be permitted to be taken into the external area until this condition has been removed by way of variation to the premises license. Number 5, the committee decided to impose additional conditions to mitigate noise for the training of staff, for meeting with residents, and adding a contact number at the premises for residents to lodge complaints. A copy of this committee's full decision, including its reasons and the full text of the conditions added to the license, will be sent to the parties forthwith. If the applicant or any person who has made a relevant representation is unhappy with the decision, they are entitled to appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision. That's the decision of the Licensing Subcommittee on the 9th of September 2025. Thank you very much all for being here this evening.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much.